This is Purple Palace Podcast, connecting cannabis culture worldwide. I'm Purpleterps.
And I'm Cannamandi.
How you doing today, Cannamandi?
I'm doing well, thanks, Purpleterps. How are you doing?
Fantastic, thank you. So essentially, we're going to be talking about legal weed during COVID-19. How do you feel about that?
Ooh, I feel like not much has changed in California, aside from the mask wearing, just because of the deeming of cannabis businesses as essential businesses. So most dispensaries are still open amidst all of this stuff going on, but some are actually only open for orders online.
So yeah, I mean, definitely I would agree that there are orders online, and that's been the growing trend lately. Some dispensaries I've heard have completely cut out the lobby, right, and interactions. But it's not every dispensary, essentially. So what we have to then discuss is how it's affecting everyone. Like, we have to wear masks. I feel almost that the masks are disconnecting us.
I agree with that. I would say that it kind of puts a barrier between us, and it's a physical barrier, because it literally covers half of our face, and I think facial, like, when you look at people's faces, it really helps us to decipher what people are thinking, and taking that away, I think, takes away some aspects of communication.
I see. And I completely agree. You can't see their facial features when they're giving you a response, so you're not entirely sure whether or not they're serious or they're joking. It's really hard to gauge what people are saying nowadays. And also, you can't even hear what they're saying because their mouth is muffled. And so, Mocha, or moderncannabis.com, says that they will be only offering online pickup until further notice during this outbreak of coronavirus. And so they will also not be offering in-store consultations or additions to any orders. I feel like, yes, I believe that this is a real virus, and at the same time, these masks, the only thing that they do is they are said to keep you from spreading the virus, but doesn't prevent you from getting it. And that, in turn, it doesn't necessarily make sense, because there's still gaps. There's no filtration system. It's just a cloth. And we should, if we really are trying to be serious about this, we should get the real deal face masks.
Yeah, exactly. Because especially since people are taking these masks on and off and adjusting
their face
them,
more.
Right. And then they're re-wearing the used masks, so they're actually breathing in that old germy material. And so there are just so many things that can be harmful about these masks. Actually, there was a study done by some doctors, and they basically said it's just microbiology, right? We need to interact with the organisms and the bacteria of society if we want our immune systems to remain strong, because when we go and take off the masks after all of this, what happens when you are now introduced to a bunch of new germs you haven't been exposed to, right? What happens?
Right. Oh, you immediately get sick, and then it's really bad.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. This is a documentary called Plandemic, and
the Plandemic movie.
I'll link that in the description below.
It is on my Instagram link, plandemicmovie.com. If you look this up, you will find a movie referring to all of the facts regarding the COVID crisis. And I believe, yes, there was an occasion with Massachusetts recently in March that their governor, Baker, actually stopped the sales of recreational marijuana and kept on going with the medicinal marijuana. What do you feel about that, Cannamandi?
So I think that it was kind of unfair to the recreational businesses in Massachusetts, since they were responsible for paying hefty prices for their permits, when the medical facilities, they were operating as nonprofits still during that time, so their taxes and permit fees were so much lower, yet they were still allowed to be open. But the recreational facilities were still required to pay these high permit prices, and they were forced to close. And on top of that, the federal stimulus checks were not given to any cannabis businesses.
Yeah, because it's not federally legal. So essentially, if you were a small business who was affected by this coronavirus, and you aren't marijuana, then they'll give you a loan to sustain your business to help you with the lack of income. But the fact of the matter is it's not federally legal marijuana, so essentially they're calling us an essential business but not giving us the support we need to continue going.
Right.
It's a catch-22.
There are many catch-22s within cannabis right now,
absolutely.
and that's why it's a prohibition still.
It is definitely.
And so, for example, we are in the process of trying to obtain our recreational permit for a delivery service. And so, because they placed this requirement to, in Sacramento County at least, to comply and pay the price for these specific permit fees, the businesses that were operating, the small businesses, got kind of, kicked aside, because they said, hey, you have to go big or go home. So essentially, we've decided to dedicate our lives to this cause because it is so important. This plant, it deserves to be heard about.
There's a reason why the government is trying to suppress this plant, for a couple of reasons. You can make your house out of this plant if you break the fibers up and make a concrete hemp mix. It is even stronger sometimes than steel in its composition. There are many different ways you can use this plant for your health, like CBD, making isolates out of that, or THC for your mental health, and or making paper. You can make paper, you can make your shirts. There's so many different ways you can use this. There's a reason why it's being suppressed.
Well, like I mentioned in last week's episode too, a rich family of aristocrats, the DuPont family, in 1937 they passed the Tax Act, which placed a taxation on hemp and cannabis. The sale, particularly, it was onto the hemp industry, right?
Indeed, so that they could secure the market with their linens and cotton.
Right, so the DuPont family, essentially, they were repping the nylon fabric. It's a synthetic fabric at the time. And so they were competing with the hemp fabric. And so they knew that the hemp fabric was so much stronger than the nylon fabric. And they didn't want the hemp fabric there to compete with.
See, it is such a profitable plant because it doesn't require that much nutrients and or water in order for you to get a lot of yield. And so, yeah, I believe to further the conversation about the legal weed during COVID is that Prop 64 specifically, in the state's eyes, it can gain a lot of profit from the cannabis industry. That's good and bad for the people trying to get into this business because they're allowing it, they're being more lenient with you having a business per se, but they're also at the same time making it harder to attain. So that's another one of those catch-22s where they're allowing it, but they're making it hard to get it. So if you want something like we want this delivery service, we'll eventually attain it if we keep wanting it.
It's the law of attraction. A great movie is The Secret.
Oh, yes.
It's all about the law of attraction, and it's so real because if you envision something, if you put work into it, and you think about this in a positive way, you'll attain it, and it's a rule. It exists in the universe.
Definitely. I would definitely like to add that these different propositions that are being put in place, they could be put in place by anybody. Somebody coming up with a great idea and or somebody who's being backed by a company. But at the end of the day, it is what is right that it will eventually pass. And so Prop 215 passed because California realized the medical benefits of this plan. And therefore, if enough of us stand behind the right cause, we can change what we want to change. It's up to us. So eventually I believe that we will make a petition to revise Prop 64 in order to get the taxes lowered at least. I feel like that's the main issue with this. Other than that, because it's giving the state complete control over the taxation.
Yeah, well, I think that there's proof of that. I agree with what you're saying because back in I believe it was the 70s, 1972, yes, that's when it was, there was an act that was passed, Proposition 19, and it said that they wanted cannabis to be legalized for recreational use, and this was an act that actually made it on the voting ballot, and it was denied. It was around 32% yes, and the rest no's. And
68%, yeah.
Yep, and so, yeah, essentially, the people have been wanting this for a long time. It's just been a matter of the people who are influenced by the media. They basically had to realize, that was just all media.
Well, and the media could be your best friend telling you that he had a bad experience and that you shouldn't do it because it's bad because he had a bad experience.
Yeah.
Or
it's brainwashing.
Or some random person who's also on another drug happened to have smoked marijuana, and now they're saying that that's what happens when you smoke weed. So it's all the media portrays a specific image in the wrong tense when it's not necessarily the whole truth, essentially. Like if somebody shot somebody and they were on meth and they happened to smoke a joint at the same time, they would say, oh my gosh, someone smoked a joint, shot and killed somebody.
Right, and a lot
marijuana is dangerous.
Right, and they used to do studies on marijuana, but in these studies, the patients that were studied would also smoke nicotine and they would do other drugs as well. So the studies were later deemed to be inconclusive, but these were the studies that originally stated that marijuana could cause brain damage, and so this was in so many people's minds for their entire life. So I think that when people go through their whole lives thinking something, it's hard to change your mind, and so I think that's why we're trying to bring this evidence out there, because there have been surfaced new studies that have shown that in truth it can't cause brain damage. It's what's happening is the cannabis receptors are being unlocked in your body, and it's actually a medicine. The thing that can cause damage.
The endocannabinoid system has actually been proven to repair memory loss because it has to do with that functionality in your body. And this is actually the true medicine of this plant because it essentially gives your body what it needs. Whereas if you take an Advil, it essentially suppresses what is hurting in your body. You don't feel it. You get a temporary feeling of better, but it's not fixing the problem. It's just suppressing it. So I believe that, yes, marijuana is a medicine. And Cannamandi, do you have anything else to add to today's podcast?
I just would like to end on a note of being grateful, gratitude, and I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you guys can, it would mean a lot if you could hit the subscribe button and like this video. We're planning on getting our podcast onto iTunes, Spotify, and
soon enough.
and onto Google Play also soon enough, yes. So thank you for watching. Again, I'm Cannamandi.
I'm Purpleterps. Thank you very much. Have a great night.